punching his body. I couldn't understand like why and what was going on. It was really, really shocking for me.
For legal analysis of what you just heard, we're joined now by James Kavanaugh, MSNBC law enforcement analyst and retired ATF special agent, and Lisa Bloom, NBC legal analyst. Lisa, what I heard in that testimony, if it stands up in court, is a first-degree murder charge.
Absolutely. If Tiffany Michelle is believed, she tells a story of a police officer shooting a man who's running away, shooting a man with his hands up. You know, the police officer is responsible for each bullet that's fired. So we don't know what happened with regard to the first bullet. The police officer says there was a scuffle in the car. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt for now on that one because we don't know what happened. But multiple witnesses now tell a story that Mike Brown is running away. He's shot in the back. He turns, hands up, and is shot again. That's first-degree murder. That's intentional taking of a human life with premeditation.
And Jim Kavanaugh, according to what we just heard from Tiffany, who is the only witness we've heard from about exactly what happened at the car at that moment from that perspective, we have a first-degree murder charge in the first shot because she says that Michael's hands were outside the car when that first shot was fired and that his hands were actually on the side of the car. And the police story, that is impossible in the police story.
No, that's right, Lawrence. Only technically, it might not have been a fatal shot, the first shot. So,
right, exactly.
It might not be right. So, but Lisa's right, and you're right, and that was a great examination of Tiffany, a very brave young woman. And I think she's very credible and truthful. And I agree with Lisa, a first-degree murder, because remember, in first-degree murder, there only has to be a pause. I mean, there only has to be a slight pause. It doesn't have to be planned for months and years. It's pre-planned or pre-thought out, but that can be a few seconds as well. I don't think that all the witnesses together really kind of tend to defeat, if they hold up, the preliminary information that the chief of police gave, that there was a struggle over the gun. What happened was there was a physical interaction that only occurred through the window of the police SUV cruiser and nothing more. So the police SUV cruiser is where this interaction takes place. The door really never opens.
And there's absolutely nothing from the police, nothing, not one word that contradicts a word that Tiffany said about what happened after the police officer got out of the car. In fact, let's listen to Chief Belmar talking about what happened after the police officer got out of the car. I guess we don't have it. We had it before. I'm going to read it to you. He said, after the officer came back out of the car, he exited his vehicle and there was a shooting that occurred where the officer, in fact, shot the subject and they were fatal injuries. That's all he says. That's all he says that happened. They don't have one word contradicting. He says the shell casings all match that one weapon. Lisa, there's not a word coming from anyone on the police side about why shots would have been fired after the first shot.
That's a very important point. Add to that everyone seems to agree that Mike Brown was left in the street. The police did not render first aid. They didn't render CPR. He was laying there 30 to 40 minutes at least before anyone rendered any medical care. Doesn't that sound like a shooting in anger to you? Doesn't that sound like the police officer was acting out of rage, out of anger, as human beings so often do when they shoot each other, and didn't want to help Mike Brown, unarmed, lying in the street, dying?
You know, it actually sounds worse than that to me. It reminds me of a case that was in New York in the 1970s where the officer actually successfully pleaded temporary insanity because he simply shot a kid younger than this at point-blank range with witnesses watching. We're going to be back with more of the legal analysis of this case.